remember seeing, he's a bald guy. I remember seeing his face on a huge billboard on the freeway in Sacramento.
Wait, your friend or Dave Ramsey?
No. Well, both of them are bald, actually.
When Doug said, hey, let's go take a financial class, I was like, no. Literally, it was like the same fight over and over and over again. And what's the definition of insanity? Is doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
I'm trying to force my style onto you. You're resisting that. That's not working. So ultimately I said, okay, let's find someone else and their program. And if you don't like it, you can't really get mad at me because it's his fault.
We're in a marriage and both of us, we both have strengths, we both have weaknesses, and they fit together to work towards a goal. Hi, welcome to my channel.
Hey.
Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome to my channel. I hope that you're having a wonderful week. Today's video is going to be all about Doug and I's quest to getting a hold of our finances. This is just the insight and the tips and the failures of us going through something that's called Financial Peace University, led by Dave Ramsey. And we have reaped the benefits of doing the books, the courses, even facilitating some classes at our church. The lives of our family are being transformed by some of these things that we're learning about how to manage the money that God has given us. Yeah. So how was it that you wanted for us to do the class?
I think it was just kind of a combination of a few different things. I had a friend sort of mention Dave Ramsey and some envelopes and cash, and I was like, oh, that sounds kind of weird. And then I remember seeing, he's a bald guy. I remember seeing his face on a huge billboard on the freeway in Sacramento.
Wait, your friend or Dave Ramsey?
No. Well, both of them are bald, actually, but Dave Ramsey's face advertising his radio show. It does a radio show, and it's also in podcast format. It's 3 hours every single day. So in Sacramento, I think it's on from 3 to 6 on an AM station here. And so it was kind of that, like, oh, that's that guy. And then I just turned the radio on to it one time and kind of started listening and thought, whoa, this is interesting. This is different, but had this odd attraction to it in a way that's very counterculture. And it's like, this is different than what I'm doing, but I'm interested in kind of learning more.
Right.
So,
do you remember, when did we take our first class? I can't remember the actual year.
Yeah, so I think what I did was I tried to be kind of strategic about it.
Tricking me into
went
taking
online and kind of researched a bit more. Went on his website, figured out that they had the FPU class, Financial Peace University, also known as FPU. And
at
they're
a church,
all,
right? Church,
they're going on all the time, all over the country, usually at churches. They're different days of the week, different times, all kinds of stuff. So I sort of researched one that would work for us that had childcare also available.
Yeah, we had 2 little ones.
Yeah, and then I think it was just on a long trip. We were driving. It was a long drive, and I just sort of mentioned it to you and kind of answered a few questions, and then just sort of let it be. I think you were going to pray about it and stuff. Yeah, and so I just was hopeful, and ultimately you said, yeah, let's go for it. So we signed up for a class.
But do you remember the year?
I think it was the beginning of 2015.
2015. Okay. And as I remember it, Doug is correct. Doug is the type of, if you have heard anything about Dave Ramsey, or if you've taken the class, you know that he separates people from the nerd and the free spirit. And there's no like negative connotation to those. It just is like, where does your spirit lie within that? Doug is definitely the nerd in our family, and I am the free spirit. So I want to just do things, you know, as the Holy Spirit moves me and as time comes, and I have a big vision. And Doug likes to do things very systematically. He wants to think things through. He wants to look up the details about something. So he did that beforehand, and he knew that this was something that was attractive to him because it was, again, something that was counterculture of not using credit cards, doing cash, and taking the reins of the finances of the home. And him being the leader of our house did such a fantastic job of going and making sure that it was going to be a class that was going to be good for us. But then he gave me what I needed to know about it, and then he let me decide as well, because something that's quite important is that both people are on board, right? Wouldn't you say that it's kind of hard to do this if not both people are willing to take the plunge?
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to his podcast and stuff, he talks about how personal finance, it's extremely personal, and the stories you start getting into, there's so much emotion behind it and everything. So much. And once you are married, you're to become one, and I've got stuff from my background and my past and my style and my family and how I was raised, and you and the same.
Yep.
And so those two things are kind of colliding into one, and you're trying to figure it out. And I think there's a lot of tension that goes on with money with couples, and whether you're newly married or been married for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And for me, it just came to a point where it was like, okay, I'm trying to force my style onto you. You're resisting that. That's not working. So ultimately I said, okay, let's find someone else and their program. And if you don't like it, you can't really get mad at me because it's his fault. There were some things that I had a little resistance about too, but I think it was growing in that, and ultimately kind of merging my style with your style together to fit in kind of what Financial Peace University teaches. Really, Dave Ramsey talks about that it's 80% behavior and 20% head knowledge. It really is not a whole lot of tricky, technical, intelligence type things. There's a little bit you just need to learn, but there's not a whole lot. It's more behavioral type stuff, and it's working through that and talking through that and creating a pattern. I mean, every single month we sit down and just go over things. We look at our calendar. What are some expenses that are coming up that we need to plan and budget for? And we agree on it. And was a struggle at first, and it's pretty smooth now, I would say.
There are times when we still struggle. There are instances we're not perfect and we're still learning. But that's the part that I love about this, is that you can never stop learning with it. You could always evolve and get to a better place. Just to give you a little background of how our relationship was before FPU, I can say that for us, the fight about money, it was like the same fight over and over and over again. And what's the definition of insanity? Is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And both of us, we had, like Doug said, different backgrounds. We have different ways of seeing things. Obviously, he's a man. God made him a man. God made me a woman, a woman, and we are both so different. But that doesn't mean that we're not needed, right? We're in a relationship and we're in a marriage, and both of us, we both have strengths, we both have weaknesses, and they fit together to work towards a goal, to work towards something, and to work towards a goal for the family. And before, I think we weren't seeing the end in mind, and we weren't seeing the actual goals of what did we even want for our family? What was the vision for our family? Why would we even do a program like this? So I remember the thing that got me, you guys, like when Doug said, hey, let's go take a financial class, I was like, no. In my head, I was like, no, thanks. I don't want to. I felt like I was already, Doug wanted me to show him things when I came home from shopping, and I wasn't feeling trusted. He was feeling disrespected. We were both having such struggle in our finances, and we were both butting heads so hard that I finally said, you know what? If this class can help us, I'm just going to be excited about it. I thought it was going to be a class that was going to teach us how to do things his way. And that's the thing about Dave Ramsey, is that he teaches you how to do things God's way. And because it's founded in truth, both people can release the ropes of control. Because I think for both of us, like, there were some aspects that we had to really look at, like some some spiritual things. Like, why? For me, it was spending. Like, why do I want to spend so much? Why do I want this and that and the other, even if I don't have the budget for it? Even if I, if I want that thing and I want to get into trouble with a credit card, like, what is the heart set that is creating this? And for Doug, I don't know, do you want to share some of the struggles that you kind of overcame?
I mean, I think it was giving up of not everything I've been doing is the best way, and kind of admitting that, okay, I kind of thought everything would be exactly, how I wanted to do it. And it was a little bit different than that too.
Yeah.
You mentioned, I mean, it's very biblical based.
Yeah.
I think Jesus talked about money more than really anything else in his lifetime when it was discussed in the Bible, in the scriptures. And the way that it's not, the course Financial Peace University is not real preachy, although it does have a lot of Bible verses. It has some Bible verses in it. But I mean, whether you're a believer or not, we can all admit that the Bible has a lot of wisdom in it, regardless of what your beliefs are. And so it's taking that wisdom and turning it into a relevant current day kind of system and strategy for yourself, for your family, and basically taking that. And so I think there was a lot of learning in that for me of just, the class, the course, it's really funny. It's very entertaining. Dave Ramsey's extremely entertaining guy.
Yeah.
And, most of the time you're busting up laughing,
or crying. I cried a lot.
Laughing at yourself, but at the same time, it really gets into the emotional side of things, and it really kind of makes you look in the mirror and say, whoa, that's me. I'm a little bit of that. I need to grow in that area, and I need to step up for myself, for my family, for our future. But yeah, I think you were hitting on, we were just kind of in that day-to-day, just grinding and grinding, rather than having
no traction,
like a forward-thinking vision as far as, well, the reason why we maybe are tightening the reins on something today is so that for, this summer we're going to be doing this, or next year we're going to be doing that.
Yeah.
And we haven't thrown the B word out there, but budget, it talks about budgeting a lot. A lot of people feel like they're going to be kind of constrained and in this straitjacket, and it's going to be, choking them and stuff. Actually, if you go about it the right way, it really is going to be freeing. You'll actually you almost feel like you got a raise, because you're going to start finding where all the holes are in your bucket, where you're just spending money here and there and you're not even realizing it.
Yeah.
You might have some memberships or auto pay things that you're not even using that are just going out the door, and really tightening those things up. You feel like, oh my gosh, I actually have some more money now. Now, where is this all going? And you start kind of looking, man, I'm just impulsing over here, over there. And really, once you create that budget and you put it down on paper, it actually frees you up to know, I have this much money to spend at the grocery store, so I feel completely fine buying all this right now, because I know it's within my budget. Or I have some blow money for this month. I can go ahead and go do this or do that. It actually gives you freedom to go and spend, rather than, oh gosh, feeling guilty and kind of, head stuck in the sand.
You hit that on the head, because that's how I started feeling guilty for spending any money, but I would spend more. Does that make any sense to anybody? Comment below and let me know if you're anything like me. But it totally relieved that from our relationship, and it gave us a vision. And that's the thing that we're going to talk about next week, is how we sat down and created a vision board for our family. And the vision board was what kept us going through the hardships of the baby step number 1, number 2, number 3. It takes you through the steps, and the first step was to have $1,000 in your bank account, right? And for us to create that and to buckle down and maybe not spend here or spend there and do the small little baby steps, we had to have a strong why. So we're going to come back next week, and we're going to be sharing with you how we created our vision board and how that helped to create momentum for all of the baby steps that we took. Thank you so much, Doug, for coming on my channel. I love you.
You're welcome.
We'll see you next week.
I feel like I have a straight jacket on or anything.
Yeah, that's how I felt. That's why I didn't want to go. But it was, sorry, hold on.